Okay.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition of True Crime with the Sarge. I'm your host, Joseph Giacalone, and with us tonight we have retired NYPD Cold Case Detective Bill Simon, who you can see tonight because we worked out all those little technological difficulties. Bill, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming back.
Oh, thanks for having me back.
Well, I'll tell you one thing from your last show, even though nobody got a chance to actually see you speak, everyone said that you were a great storyteller, and they're looking forward to hearing some of these stories about, your time with certain people. We're going to get into that in a second. But so that's just something that you can think about in for a second. So tonight's main topic, of course, is Richard Cottingham. But with all the stuff going on right now with Rex Heuermann and everything else, rumors have been swirling all over with Long Island in regards to serial killers. I mean, John Bitroff's name's been thrown around, Richard Cottingham's name been thrown around, and of course, allegedly this Thursday, Rex is having at least 1 to 3 additional victims adding on to himself. And coming from your experience dealing with these individuals throughout your career, it's kind of exciting news for the family, right? I mean, they're kind of getting their hopes up, so to speak.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's just, from my experience, I wouldn't go to the family until I was sure we had something to tell them. Because what you do is, you don't want to give them false hope.
No, so not at all. Yeah. I mean, that's something that we definitely did in Cold Case. We didn't contact any family members until you were ready to make the arrest, basically, which was the number one complaint, though, families make too, right? That the cops don't talk to them. But
yeah, it's a hard line to, talk to the family and explain to them that, maybe we do have someone in mind, but we just don't have enough evidence to move it forward. Right. And instead of saying, well, we're waiting on approval from the DA, which is most of the time, or, we need more evidence. That's what it is. A lot of it is they want, more evidence to move forward with the case.
Yeah. I used to say they want the Pope and 3 nuns as your witnesses and and DNA and all the other stuff to go along with it. So,
if it's not wrapped up in a nice bow, they don't want to know about it.
Right. But apparently there's some big things coming out with Suffolk County in regards to Rex. I mean, these cases are 20 years old. So there has to be some sort of forensic evidence or some other type of evidence that they found in order to charge him for this.
Well, the technology with DNA has advanced tremendously in 20 years.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I wish I was still doing cold cases back in, doing it now with all these new advancements, because I think it would be phenomenal what you could do.
Yeah, it could be.
It could be. So let's talk about the Richard Cottingham. We could just give everybody a quick overview of this guy. You've spoken to him many times, right?
Yes. So pretty much, he's a smart guy. Back in the day, he worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield. He was a computer person. He spent most of his career there. He traveled a lot. He was, he's been all around, the country, and a lot of places, still to this day are like looking into him for certain cases. He's a difficult person to deal with. He makes all these crazy demands that he knows he's not going to get. And in his mind, he'll talk to you. He'll give you just enough to know that it is the case that you're looking at. But then he'll cut it short and say, well, what's in it for me? Or, I don't want to be in the news because my family will see it and they won't call him or whatever, which they don't. So,
right.
It's not like a lot of people always ask, well, why doesn't he give it to you? Or why doesn't he do this? Well, he's not a normal person. He's a narcissist, and, he'll fight to get stuff done to the bitter end, get his way. So
right.
That's the kind of person.
And there's very little leverage on him, right? I mean, it's not like you can hit him with the death penalty or anything else like that. Then you can say, hey.
No, he's doing like 300 years. I mean,
right.
So he's going to be in there for a while, and that's it. I mean, the only thing you can do is like get him maybe an extra food package, which is something normal, nothing outrageous. But then, he would ask for something ridiculous like, "Oh, I want a hot plate." I'm like, "Well, you're in prison. You're not going to get a hot plate. You want a microwave too?"
Yeah, can I get
So,
his key to the cell?
well, he can't walk, so he ain't going nowhere. I mean, the last time we had him out many years ago, we were underneath the George Washington Bridge, where he said he left the heads of the victims from the thing in Manhattan from the D.D. Gorzine case. And he, we spent the whole day there with dogs and everything, and really got nothing from him.
Has he sent you on a bunch of wild goose chases, so to speak?
No, not really. When he dealt a lot with New Jersey, not so much with New York, but down to the end, he wanted to, he'll tell us stuff, but he won't give it up all the way. I mean, the ones that he was talking about, I explained to him, I'm like, well, I work for New York City Police Department, not Suffolk County or Nassau, and those are where those cases are.
Right.
So we reached out to them, and they had a positive outcome with those cases, and they were able to bring closure with it. So he's not, he'll tell you, up to the point where then he wants something, and it's nothing too crazy, but, not always easy to get for him.
Yeah, I can imagine, right? I mean, you got to get it through corrections and everything else. It's got to go through the warden, right?
Yeah, well, Jersey's been incredibly cooperative, and and they, they try to be as helpful as they can be, but things like a hot
point.
Yeah, to a point.
To a point. Now, how many cases do they have? I mean, I know he got 300 years, which is good, is because when he dies, and if there is life after death, we'll get him for at least 3 more lives after that. But what has he got? About he's claimed of 100 victims, right? He's
claimed that only in like the last 2 years, because when we were going down there to talk to him about a case up in Poughkeepsie, myself and a state trooper, and he was like, "Well, maybe that could be me, maybe it couldn't be me." I'm like, "Well, either it is or it isn't. If you say, all right, it looks good, then we could move on to see what little demands you can get, and then he'll quit. I mean, he'll give it up." But for a while there, he was dealing with one of the victim's daughters, and Jennifer Weiss, and she had this relationship with him. As crazy as it may sound, but he would give up stuff to make her happy. And so that's pretty much it. He's not giving me anything.
So he's been convicted of what, about 11 cases? 7 in Jersey and 4 in New York or something like that?
It was 3 in New York, in Manhattan, and then the rest were in Jersey, and then you have Suffolk.
Right. So the one in Nassau, right? The Diane Cusick, the one at the so there was 4, and so about 11 they got him for already.
Yeah.
And we listen, part of cold case investigation is you always keep your eyes open to anything else that fits his MO, but did he really have an MO, or was it kind of fluid? And I think it seems to be tough to track down in some of these cases.
Yeah, with him it's very difficult. I mean, in theory, he was always hunting. If he saw the opportunity, he would go for it. When he was in Manhattan, when he was at work, he manipulated the timestamp, the clock in, clock out. So it looked like he was at work all this time, but really he was going to the bar. He was picking up women there. And then, he moved forward from that thing. It's whatever triggered him to do it. I think if he thought he could get away with something, or that the victim wasn't going to say anything, he would let her go. And that's what he said. His famous, ridiculous line is, "Well, I let more women go than I killed." I'm like, all right.
Thank God, right?
Yeah. I'm like, you're a great guy, Richie.
Yeah. Unbelievable, right? Like that would be something like we should give him a medal for. Hope, Ain't Fear. Thank you very much for gifting that membership. I really appreciate that, Hope. Yeah, so I mean, he targeted some prostitutes, right, back in the day, whatever. But not every victim was a prostitute, right? The lady in Nassau County was not.
No, and one of the first victims in New Jersey, she was just a mom that was going to the supermarket. like it seems like he picked up a lot of women who were not sex workers from like the supermarket, shopping mall. I think one of them was a neighbor down the block. I'm positive it was a neighbor down the block. And then one night they were hanging out, or that he bumped into her at the supermarket, and he said, "Well, let's get a drink." And then from there, he took her to a location and murdered her.
Right, and
Yeah.
like the Diane Cusick case that got solved, I think I was the last one that's been solved, and that was in Nassau County. I think it was solved, was it December 2022, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
Pretty much right. And she just went to the Green Acres Mall. She went to buy a pair of shoes, and he confronted her in the parking lot.
I thought he went to go. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe it's a different case. I thought she was getting a. No, this is a different case. In one case that we were looking at, the victim was going to get a baby stroller for her daughter who was having a kid, and he picked her up from the mall and he murdered her.
Yeah. So there's been a couple of different cases with this. It just goes to show you, right, that his MO kind of changes his choice of victims, and like I said, victim of opportunity, so to speak. And
yeah, he was. I mean, he'd see a girl walking down the street, try to get him to come in the car, and he would murder them, rape and murder them. So it was, on and off. One of the big things he would do is, and he knew this because he was smart, wherever he picked the victim up and murdered them, he'd dump their bodies off at a different location, maybe a different township. So like to kind of like break it up and distance himself from, being located.
right, and he actually went to great lengths, right? Because he's been dubbed the torso killer, right? So he's dismembered victims to try to make sure that nobody identified him, because I guess he thought maybe someone could say, I saw her leave with this guy and give a description, so to speak.
Yeah, well, with the Times Square torso case where he did take the victims' heads and hands, it also led me to believe that, he picked them up or they were known to him, and we never ID'd the second victim in that. So unfortunately, the way Potter's Field is,
No.
we're not going to find the body.
Yeah, no, that's quite unfortunate. Pottersfield, they have some great records, but trying to get anything out of there. Eventually, now they want to turn Hart Island into like a condo complex. So I don't know what they're going to do with all the unidentified human remains there. There's something like 300,000 identified human remains on Hart Island.
Well, yeah, originally that place was it was almost like a resort before it got turned into Hart's Island. I think like during the Civil War, it was also a fort. And then over time, I don't know at what point, it became, Potter's Field, but,
Yeah, the one opportunity I had a chance to go there with Mark and Tony on a case, I ended up out sick, and I missed going over there because that would have been my only chance, because they don't let you just like let anybody come over there. It's run by corrections. It's kind of difficult to get there.
Yeah, it is. It is. And or if you have someone that's buried on Hart's Island, you're allowed access.
Yeah, so. But it's not like you can go and visit it and do something. We were going there for a specific case, try to get some information out, and cause you had to get the Harbor Patrol to come and take you.
Yeah,
because there's no access to it.
Nope.
It's a pretty interesting place, I heard. Have you been there?
Yeah. Just
they say it's kind of like a creepy little spooky place at times because it's like pretty much abandoned.
Yeah, it's everything's falling apart. I mean, we actually had a case up by Rodman's Neck, where all the seafood places are. We believe that the suspect took the body to Hart's Island and buried it there. So.
When you go to talk to a convicted serial killer like Cottingham or anybody, what's the preparation that you need to do when you got to go in there and do this thing?
Well, it's basically, when we go down there, it's just, when I did have a case or he wants to talk about something, we let him talk. I mean, he's not allocuting to the case. He's just giving us more information. And then when he gets to the point where he goes, all right, we come to a deal. And of course, you got to have his lawyer and, they go through the whole process. But, now that I'm a civilian, there's really nothing. I mean, I can go there and talk to him, and I don't have to do anything special in order to just speak to him.
Right, but he doesn't just let anybody talk to him, right? I mean, does he get to pick and choose who he wants to talk to? I'm assuming?
Yeah. He, despite all things, it isn't like we have any great relationship. I'm surprised you still want to talk to me, because there'll be times I'll go down there and I'll be like bitching and crying. I'll say, all right, see you later.
And does he say wait, or do you just leave? Does he change his tune?
No, he'll just say leave. It's like fighting with your cranky old Uncle Jim. Like, the hell would you get the hell out of here? I'm like, all right, go fuck yourself.
There you go. That you can say that. That's all right. So Life Love gifted a membership. Thank you very much. And Ashley, thank you. Just gifted 5 memberships to the channel. Thank you very much, Ashley, for your continued support. One of the things that I want to bring out about the Cusick case, because I think there's going to be somewhat of a legal tie-in with Rex, and that is when he was found guilty or he pled guilty to the Cusick case, they added 4 other murder cases onto him as part of the plea deal, right? Instead of going through the trials and everything else again. Do you see something like that happening with Rex if they keep on adding cases to him?
Yeah, they're gonna. I mean, they're not gonna. They'll just like tie it all in together. We're gonna have trial after trial after trial. If you could bring them all in together, you got to save taxpayer money. I mean, just constantly charging them. I mean, I'm sure they'll group it all in together, but I'm not a lawyer. So
yeah, well, meaning like we've seen this happen in cold cases where they just add on to all these cases and say, okay, so I'm assuming what's going to happen is the Gilgo 4 case is going to go forward, and any of these other cases that they add, they're just going to say at the end, if he ever gets out of jail, we'll hit him with these, but they're not going to go to trial, I don't think, for another. I'm trying to prepare people for this likelihood, because I think a lot of people think that there's going to be separate trials and all these things. I don't see it happen.
If they give him life with no parole, if he allocutes to all the other cases, then why are we going to have a dozen? If you got him for one and he confesses all the other ones, then it's over.
Right. Yeah, I don't see them doing trial after trial.
No, it's I mean, it's just the same thing with Richard Cottingham. It's like, are we really going to charge you, or we're just going to notionally close the case? And all right, you've admitted to it. We believe you. We have all the things to close it, and just close it. I mean, the he's not doing that great. I don't really see him seeing 2025.
This is Cottingham, right? He's pretty ill.
Yes.
Must be that great health care in prison that he's getting, right?
Oh my God. So, so one of the difficulties with him is like he would get a food package when he was in Trenton, he'd get it like twice a year. And now that he's in this other place, it's kind of like you're in that prison because you're leaving prison, or you're leaving prison in a pine box. So he's only allotted 30 pounds of food. So, that's one of those, it's texting me like, I don't see why I can't get more. I'm like, all right. Stupid things.
Well, I didn't even realize that they do that, right? So they kind of like, I guess they're calculating kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that part, that's just that's an assumption on my behalf.
Yeah, it's a system thing, yeah. But how many
hold
cases?
On 1 second.
Wait.
I just got to tell my son something. Drain it and put it into the.
That's what I'm trying to find out.
It's up over there. Oh. Got to feed the boy. Okay.
That's okay. What? How? In your opinion, how many cases do you think he's responsible for? Can you give us a number on that?
Hold on. Let me put my store-bought glasses because I can't find my other ones. I'm going to say he's good for at least 50.
Right. So they have him for 11. So there's still a lot more work to get done to tie into those things.
Well, a lot of the stuff, like, and it's funny. He's weird. He's weird all the way around. But like if he killed a lot of young girls in the early teens, but he's always like, oh, I don't want to talk about those. I'm like, but you did for other people. I mean, you confessed to those 2 teenagers that you picked up in New Jersey by the mall. You took them to a hotel and you murdered them. It's just, I don't know. You never know what he's going to give up or when he's going to give it up.
I've seen different time frames of when people think that this guy was active. Now, you've spoken to him several times. What do you think your parameters are from the time frame for his year? Because we know he gets arrested and convicted in 1980, I think, right? So how far early do you think he started?
Around 65, 1965. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it's like, he had, quite the normal upbringing. He had, a mother and father, they were together. The father made good money. He had a lot of land developments, went to a good school. I mean, not like the A&E serial killer thing that you watch, like, little Timmy was ripping off birds' wings in the backyard and everyone saw it coming. It's him. He says when he was a kid, he got hit by a car. So he had a head injury. And that's what he thinks caused him to be the way he is. So.
Yeah, because usually you deal with the, environment, right? I mean, he grew up in an abusive environment. And those are the kind of things but if none of those things happen, biological you look at and experience, but he didn't have any of that, you're saying?
No, I think he's quite similar with Rex. It's just he was one of those narcissists that, thought he can get away with everything. And back then, he was getting away with it. Whether he was just abusing women to begin with, and he just, oh, that wasn't much fun. Let's bump it up a notch. And he kept moving the ball forward and forward and forward to eventually he got caught in a motel in New Jersey, where he had brought another girl like a month prior, and he murdered her in the hotel, and then he takes his other one back to the same hotel. So, I mean, he's got a set of balls on him, that's for sure.
And that's how he got caught the first time? That's how he got caught? Yep. So what happened? Yep. The lady at the desk, or the guy at the front desk called up and said, I think this is the guy?
No. What happened was, like, they hear the screaming from the second victim, or soon-to-be second victim in the hotel. They're all standing outside, and I think they like told one of the maids, like, go knock on the door.
Oh, great.
She went to knock on the door. The woman came to the door and was like, hey, you okay? And she's like, yes, but going like, no. And then the cops came, and when the cops were coming upstairs, he tried taking off, and they grabbed him midway.
That's pretty amazing.
But he also, he would pretend to be a cop too. He had like a handcuffs and a shield, and one of his favorite things to always tell me is, back then women would get into your car all the time. It's just when you got into my car, you got into the wrong car. So.
Nice.
Yeah. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Not a fiend, but a nice guy.
Forrest Nelson, thank you. Gifted 5 memberships to the channel. Thank you very much. Yeah, so the whole thing with the cop thing, how many cases do you think that he abducted people with the whole impersonation thing?
There was a case in Queens where he abducts 2 girls, and I think he used that ruse. And when I went for the case, the girls, when they got in the car, I think he said, I'm a cop, get in the car. But when he got him in the car and he drove to a location, he took out a knife. Well, these girls got the knife away from him, stabbed him in the leg. And the reason I believe it was him is because we have his Blue Cross Blue Shield records. And the day after that incident happened, he's out of work for a leg injury in his right leg. What a coincidence.
Yeah, no such thing, right? Not in our business. I say it all the time. When you're dealing with criminal investigations, there's no such thing as coincidences.
Yeah.
And that's how you make a living on this stuff. What are some of the things about Cottingham that you think that made him, like, I guess, attractive to the women? Was he, I looked at pictures. I guess he wasn't a bad looking guy. He didn't look crazy. Some of these guys you look at, I mean, Rex looks pretty normal, but he's huge. But, they kind of look normal. And that's really, basically what you see a lot of times. But does he have charisma? Does he have?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is he personable?
Yeah, he's definitely a guy you can sit down and have a couple of drinks with and, just bullshit. He could talk about anything, and he could roll butter on his tongue. So, I mean, as far as physical attraction, I wouldn't know.
Right. But, Well, listen,
Yeah,
I mean, we know.
yeah, he'll tell you stories. I mean, if you're a good storyteller, someone's gonna like you. And obviously, he was running women. He was actually a pimp to a couple of women. So go figure that. With your full time job as Blue Cross Blue Shield, you got time to be a pimp.
I guess. I guess they didn't have much in the way of background checks and nothing on some of these guys.
I mean, what would have shown? I mean, he never.
No.
There was no like. He never got locked up before. I think he did get locked up once in Jersey, and I don't know how he got let loose. Like the women wouldn't come to court because they were sex workers. So
Right.
back then it was like, I can go to court and get robbed. I mean, not robbed, arrested for being a sex worker, or I could just take the hit and, never deal with that guy again.
Right. And that's, and some of these, we know serial killers pick on sex workers. Part of that reason where they don't go to the police. They're transient. They're all over the place. Nobody's looking for them. Nobody's saying, hey, there's less people on the corner now. And it just makes it easier for these guys to kind of, keep on plying their trade, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. But, he was always, it was just an opportunity. I don't think there was any, I mean, he had like his own little kit, I guess he'd go out with, like his little murder kit. So if he ever saw the opportunity, he can quickly get to it. But, he never said like, I would only do it like on the weekends or something like that. It was all the time.
It seems as if a number of these cases happen in and around the malls too, of the cases not dealing with sex workers, right? I mean, that's what kind of
that's what he said. Most of the time when he wasn't sex workers, it was always around the mall, a shopping plaza. I mean, he even took a girl out of an ice cream parlor, or would just see a girl walking the streets late at night, just going home, and would try to seize them.
Crazy stuff. Brown Eyed Girl, thank you very much for that super sticker. I appreciate that. Yeah, because when that whole Diane Cusick case, I mean, it was bothersome in so many aspects. I mean, here she is just going, she's just in the mall. He just picked her out of the parking lot and he attacks her in her car and just leaves her there and drives off.
Well, he did that a couple of times, where he would just leave the car, leave the victim in their own car.
And in this case, he left the DNA behind. Is that how, I guess, I'm assuming that they're just trying to see if they could tie him to any other cases with the DNA stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, recently I talked to him and he's like, another agency was trying to get his DNA. I'm like, I think your DNA is in CODIS already. So
yeah, he's convicted felon. So
what do you need, a fresher thing? But, technology, maybe they need a new sample to move forward. I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Well, they had to get a court order for that one anyway. I mean, he's already in custody. So,
well, Jersey's funny about the court orders too for prison. Trying to get DNA, because we did have a court order to get his DNA a while back with the state police, and they're like, "No, doesn't work here." I'm like, all right.
Well, even Jersey, which I found out when I was doing my research for my book, that even abandoned property, even taking the garbage, they need to get a warrant. It's crazy. Like, you just can't do abandoned property on the street corner.
Really?
You know how we used to do garbage covers?
Yeah,
they still need, you can take it, but in order to search it, they still need to get a search warrant, which I found extremely odd.
So if you're taking it, what gives you the right to take it if you don't have the search warrant?
I don't know. So it's craziness. I mean, I thought New York was bad with this whole not putting the DNA in upon arrest on certain cases. I mean, look what they're doing with Rex, right? And Las Vegas had a fight for it because he's only been arrested. He hasn't been convicted yet. They don't want to put his DNA in the system, which I think is absolutely crazy because this guy's tied to states all over the place where he's been. And put the DNA in the system, for crying out loud.
Look, I mean, it's crazy,
I can see the frustration on your face.
you can't. Well, since I'm dealing with the National Institute of Law and Justice, and we're doing indigenous cases, it's you're learning all this other new stuff. How Look, on our job, if I was working in the 6-2 and I had a pattern, and all of a sudden you were in the 4-4 and you got a pattern, are we talking to each other? No.
Yeah.
So I mean, now you get it to a level where the indigenous people on their land with the local authorities and the feds, you have a recipe for a horrific soup of trying to get stuff done, and a lot of things slide through the cracks.
Well, including their reporting, the feds reporting on this. It's absolutely awful what's going on with the indigenous people.
What, the feds reporting?
Yeah.
Oh.
They've done really nothing about the reporting of they're the lead investigative agency for homicides in indigenous people and native lands, and they don't report any homicides.
Well, then you don't have that
minor
much
detail.
Yeah, a little
minor detail. But as part of because I'm part of the Murder Accountability Project, and that's one of the things that we're fighting for. We're getting, they file lawsuits in order to get those data. I mean, there are hundreds of cases every year of missing and unidentified human remains and murders that go unreported from native lands in this country. It's absolutely crazy.
I know. But we've been having some success. So I'm very pleased. We just had a fundraiser this weekend up in Long Island. And I'm going out to Missouri on a case tomorrow. So,
And in regards to Native Americans?
Yes.
Good. It's good. I mean, those cases need a lot of attention, and they're just not getting it.
Well, we're trying to. What we're doing is we're going out there on behalf of the family. So we're like the boots on the ground kind of thing, where we're redoing the investigation, and whatever leads we have, we liaison with the police. Syracuse has been great. Every now and then, you get an agency that doesn't want to cooperate, but what are you going to do?
You can only do the best you can in those regards, and see what happens. You figured with the Homicide Victims' Rights Act that was passed by the feds, a couple of years ago, that this would be like top priority. I haven't heard anything about documentation on anything, because one of the main things on the case was Native American cases.
Yeah. They say it, but they don't do anything about it. So that's where we make the difference, where we actually go out there.
Right. Until people actually start seeing some of these cases getting solved. Like I thought, not to get too far off topic, but that when the movie came out with the Flower Moon, I forgot the whole thing. Yeah. I thought maybe that would bring attention to the plight about what's going on, and then people would be demanding, and it kind of fizzled. Really, I don't know if I didn't watch, but I don't know if the movie was any good or not. I haven't seen it yet.
Don't watch it.
Maybe that's why.
Yes.
Well, there you go. So maybe they need to make a shorter one, because it's like 3 hours. I don't have that attention span to
I mean, at the end, it wasn't really. It didn't really capture, the problem. I mean, that whole story was more of, that nation had land rights to oil, and then people were buying, were marrying into the family and killing off the family. I don't want to give you too much if you didn't.
No, that's right.
Life you want to get rid of.
Yeah, no, I mean, Afton Forward here says Killers of the Flower Moon. The book was fantastic and should be required reading. I haven't read the book. Maybe I should, but I hadn't. Yeah, I didn't hear good things about the movie, but maybe that's something that they need to work on, because maybe you can have some success and get some of that media attention on some of those things, and then say, hey, look, this is what's going on.
We're off to a pretty good start. I mean, and honestly, it's just really just going back in there and talking to people, So if it's spread out, you speak to different agencies and this is what we have, this is what we know. And they're like, oh yeah, wow, we didn't know that before. Because, indigenous don't always talk to everyone either. There's a little disconnect with their communication as well. So we're trying to bridge that gap with the Indian Law Alliance and the National Institute of Law and Justice. So I think we're, over the next year, I think we're going to see really good results. You want to
Well,
go
that's
back
a
to
good thing.
Cottingham?
Yep, we're getting. Yeah, I got a little off topic there, but I thought it was important to bring it up to the audience about how big of a problem, the Native American cases are, and they really need to get that attention. So, getting back to Richard Cottingham, we say that you could be responsible up to 50 cases, and you said he's not really ill. Is there a big push now to try to see if they can get some more cases closed before he passes on?
Yes and no. I mean,
Because he's tough to deal with.
he's tough to deal with, and a lot of the cases, maybe there's a case where he left a head in New York City in a subway locker, but the body was found in New Jersey, like it washed up on shore. So, well, like when I was still active, I was like, I can't find this case. I looked for just like human body parts, which were in the books up at 1PP, and we didn't have it. And then I think Bergen County said, well, we don't got it. So then where the hell's this case? I mean, I know it happened. It was in the newspaper, and he freely talks about it. So I'm like, well, can't do nothing without a case. I mean, the physical case folder. I don't know whose jurisdiction it fell to. So it's things like that. And once again, it's like, it's trying to make sure that he is the person that did this case. That's the most important thing. I mean, if I think you didn't do it, or you're not telling me the truth, then, we're going to move forward from it. And it's very difficult to deal with.
And do you know what he's going to talk about when you get there, so you can get the case and review it, so that you know if he's BSing you or not?
So we're going to have from a different agency, not New York City. He's going to come down with us. And when he gets to that point where he's going to discuss it, we're going to leave him to talk, and then we'll be outside doing something else. And then that detective will say either, yeah, he's telling the truth, or no.
Right. And this is the reason why, for those that are watching now, we're speaking to retired NYPD Cold Case Detective Bill Simon. He's been talking to Richard Cottingham, has been a convicted serial killer from New York and New Jersey. And we got about 275 people watching this live. And it's the number one reason why, Bill, when I try to explain to the folks, the police don't want to give out details about certain cases, because there are certain things that only the killer would know. And we don't want it to get out, because people would confess to these things, or be able to say, hey, I knew something specific. Talk to us a little bit about that when you're dealing with Cottingham. Like, how do you go about vetting out some of that information?
So when we had a case that, we thought he was, I'd read through the case and I would ask him, well, what about this? And as he went on, he would tell us about certain details of it. And if it didn't fit, I'm like, all right, it doesn't fit this case. And we just move on. Ones that he would talk about, like the mostly New York cases and, New York City. So we could talk about, like we were talking about the Times Square torso killers. We were trying to get the name of the other victim. And he would go on and on and on. And he's like, I can't remember her name. And she was good friends with Dee Dee. And so these are all truthful things. Where he picked them up, we knew that was a fact, because another girl who knew Dee Dee and the other one said that, yeah, they would frequent this bar. So, things like that. I mean, and then when it got down to the final detailed ones, then we knew that he was close. Right. So you don't want to tell him anything, but the funny thing about it is, back then, like I had a case from 1974, and there was a woman that was killed in front of her kids in Brooklyn in her house, and the detectives back then put the whole case in the newspaper. I'm like, every detail. I'm like, this is crazy. So,
well, one thing about the old news reporters, anyway, back then, I mean, they were actually scenes. They used to get access to the scenes, as you know, right? You used to take pictures and the crime scenes and stuff. And I always tell people, when you're researching a cold case, you got to go back into what we refer to as the morgue files of the newspapers, because the amount of information about the case was unbelievable compared to what you see today.
Oh my God, it's crazy. I mean, it's like, I don't even know when they got wise to like hold back information, because you put all that out there, and nuts are going to be calling all day saying, "Yeah, I did it. I did it." You know,
When I say that to people, Bill, they tell me, "Who would do that?"
who would do it?
Yeah. I said,
I don't
"How
know.
much time do you got?"
It's getting close to beer time, so I didn't. Maybe another hour or two. Now who would do it? There's tons of nuts out there. I mean, you had people would call up. I mean, when I worked in the 7-0, we had people walk in every now and then, crazies, and would tell us, "Yeah, I did this murder." One of the guys walked in and he goes, I know about this murder." I'm like, "All right, what about the murder? And what murder are we talking about?" He goes, "We're talking about the murder of me." I said, "You were killed?" And he goes, "Yeah, these guys were trying to kill me and they killed me. And I came back." I was like, "Okay, Jesus, at what point do you want to walk out of here? Or do you want the bus to take you out of here?" He's like, "Okay, have a nice day." We didn't see him again.
Yeah, no,
So,
people will take credit for things that they didn't do, and it's just for the fame and fortune. Not fortune, but the fame part of it. People will do that.
well, how about the amount of mail that Richard Cottingham used to get from women? They love him, great. Who would write to a serial killer? Lots of people.
Lots of people do. And listen, I think Charles Manson got married, right, in prison.
Did he?
Yeah, I think he did. But
Yeah.
yeah, it happens a lot. I mean, they get the well. Listen, even Brian Kohlberger, we're hearing the guy from Idaho, the Idaho 4, he's getting fan mail. All kinds of crazy stuff already happening with some of these things. So when people say, "Joe, like who would do such a thing about take credit for something?" I guess you're probably new to the internet because there are people out there saying all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, I just try to limit my crazy exposure to if I really have to do something.
Does Cottingham try to intimidate you or anybody else? Like when he talks to does he try to give on some impression that he's
78 years old?
78 years old?
He's shitting himself in the bed. What's he gonna do? He's just your cranky Uncle John didn't get a beer yet. He'll talk to you and say, "I'm not telling you nothing." Like, all right, I'm leaving. All right. Let me think for a minute. I'm like, what are you gonna think about? And it's just,
and it's not like he's talking to keep himself alive, like avoiding the death penalty or anything. He's just stringing everybody along.
Look, when COVID came out, I thought that was it. He's done. But he's like a cockroach. He's still hanging around. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And it's like, oh God. Stupid stuff. So we'll be hopefully going down to see him one more time. And if it's good results, then, you'll see it in the news. If it's not, I'm kind of like done dealing with him.
Right.
And hopefully the other detectives will have better luck. And I don't think so because it's just he likes to wheel and deal. Yeah, it's just a pain in the ass. For stupid stuff. Like I think at one point he was getting a TV guide sent to him, and then one day he got something else beside a TV guide, and he got pissed. I didn't even know they made TV guides still.
Neither did I. I thought everything was on the internet.
Yeah. What do I know?
I don't watch TV, so I wouldn't know.
No other questions from people? I don't know how the podcast goes if people asking you things.
There's a question right here. It says from Sinead, how many times have you seen Cottingham now?
Over 10 times. I mean,
and they keep on getting better, right?
Oh, it just gets worse. Now he's in the bed. You got to hear him crying. They don't bring him, his hot water for his coffee. And it's just like, you're visiting some dude in a nursing home who just complains about the service.
And so I think I know the answer to this one after hearing that one. It says, have you formed an attachment to him?
I think the attachment that is formed with dealing with him would be a nice drink of bourbon whiskey. You know, no, I have no attachment with him.
Right.
I
So
can let him go on. I would, if he was to move on and we didn't get anything else out of him, to the afterlife, that's it. I won't be going down there over his grave.
right. Well, yeah. I guess do they bury them in the prison yard over there, or are they going to send them out? Where do they
I
do?
don't
Usually,
know.
some places.
Yeah, some places they do. I don't know. I don't know what it would take to get access to where his grave is to take a piss on it.
Oh, God.
Not like I do that, but
Yeah. No.
yeah,
I
he's
mean,
just
listen. He's got his. He gets his 15 minutes of fame, I guess, every time you guys show up. So it's probably a kick for him that people even come to see him.
look. He's all the way down past Philadelphia. So the last time I was down there and he was ranting and raving about stuff, I say, hey, you know what time it is? It's time for me to go to Atlantic City because I have better luck on the machines than I have with you. And that's just it. And he's like, oh, you're going to Atlantic City? I'm like, he liked to gamble. He used to run like numbers in the prison. And it's all crazy shit. I'm like, you don't do that anymore. I think it was the last 2 times I was down there, it was around maybe the Super Bowl. I'm like, you're running a Super Bowl pool? Because I don't do that no more. You can't have cigarettes in prison. I'm like, all right. Well, so I guess that's what that's what you got. I mean, it's like they got money.
Right.
The trading you a can of tuna fish or the little sausages in the can that they enjoy in prison.
So Kerry has a question for you. He says, Bill, do you think Cottingham tried to manipulate at certain points of his visits, like if he feels he's not getting enough attention?
Manipulate? Yeah, all the time. All the time. It's a game. He was like, oh, I'm going to tell you this and tell you that. I'm like, no, you're not.
So question from Sinead, did he have a trophy room or did he keep trophies from any
He
of his
did.
victims?
Yes, he did. He had a big trophy room in Jersey. He had his own. It was not like the Rex Silent Cellar. He had a. Yeah, because we all have one of them in our houses, a soundproof cellar. Do you think he did it? I don't know. He had a shack in the backyard. So when they did hit it, that's how they were able to link a lot of these together. Now, I had a case in New York where there was a nurse, and I remember he had gotten a nurse a pin when they graduate nursing school to get a pin. And in his little treasure trove, he had a pin. Boy, I went up to the school and we were searching through records. I said, did anyone ever disappear? And they're like, no. And the pin actually ended up turning out to be one of the girls he was fooling around with and didn't murder. So he had his wife. He had a couple of gumads, a couple of sex workers, and then the other people that he would just go out and kill. So he was doing everything.
Terry Malloy has a question for you. He says, is Jeanette De Palma one of the cases that Cottingham looks good for? I don't know if you know that case or if you could talk about that. I don't know if it's anything I haven't heard about.
Where did that happen?
Terry, if you can just still let us know where that one happened and he'll take a look at it while I'm looking for some other questions. It says, Patty chimed in, says, yes, Jeanette Palmer and her girlfriend, those were the ones that he dumped in my town. I don't know where that town was. If you could just let us know. You got the whole list in front of you there?
Not the entire list. So was it Long Island?
I don't know. I'm waiting for Patty or Terry to chime in back here on the chat. See if they can give us a little more information. While we're looking for that other question, waiting for another part of it. If you have another question we only have a few minutes left with Bill. So if you have a question, throw it out there. Okay, Patty writes in here, says, De Palma. I meant to write, I have been I haven't been able to figure out how to answer an individual person's back to this chat. It just comes up with a click or the block report. Okay.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Come
Sure.
here. Come here. I think Grandpa has to do something. A surprise visit from the grandkids.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Nice.
All right, go see mommy. I'll be right with you.
All right, we're just gonna have Grandpa for a few more minutes, and then we're gonna set him free.
Yeah.
Devil's teeth. Terry saying Jeanette De Palma was found on Devil's Teeth.
Well, that sounds familiar, but what is it, in Jersey?
I don't know. I'm just trying to see if we get any other information. But if they find the other information, I'll just send it to you, and then we can do a follow up. Yeah, we'll do a follow up on the Raul saying yes in Jersey.
Where in Jersey?
Devil's Teeth. I don't know if it's name of a beach or something. I don't know. I'm not good with Jersey. Jersey was a good place to drive through.
Yeah,
on the way somewhere else.
I'm trying to think. It sounds. Say the names again.
Springfield, New Jersey.
Okay, yeah. I'll have to look.
All right, so you'll just get.
He got around New Jersey, but his main I don't know how to explain. Like his main Killsack or area that he would constantly be in would be northern New Jersey, all the way up through Manhattan out to Long Island. Like he may have been in the Bronx. He was never in Brooklyn, never in Staten Island. So that was like his main, for lack of a better term, hunting ground. But,
gotcha.
Did he go further out? Maybe he did. I mean, he was in the Army. So, I mean, he was in the National Guard. Actually, a unit that I was in, he's in the 69th. So he actually went out to Fort Ord. And so I think we reached out to Fort Ord or around the surrounding towns to see if they had any homicides from back in the day. And they said that they did. And that was right before I retired, maybe a year before I retired. So I don't know whatever became of that.
Here's just a little more information for you if you take a look at it. And if you get a response, just shoot me an email and I'll put it into the comments section. It says Jeanette De Palma was an American teenager who was believed to have been killed sometime around August 7th, 1972 in Springfield Township, Union County, New Jersey.
Ooh, on my birthday. I have to look and see, because a lot of the Jersey cases, I didn't really.
Does the name Madeline De Filippi ring a bell with you too? That was another one that Raul threw out there. Might be another case involved.
What year?
Raul, do you have the year on that one? And I could send you this stuff too. In an email,
just send me the stuff and we'll look into it. I mean, I know there's one in Fairfield in New Jersey, but I won't speak about that because.
Okay. 1973 Queens, De Filippi.
What's the De Filippi 1973 Queens? What are some of the facts around the case? How old was she? What did she do?
Yeah.
Was she,
I could ask Jimmy Osorio too. He might have had something in there.
Yeah. I mean, could always ask Oscar.
All right, good. So is there anything about Cottingham that I didn't ask you that you could tell us? Or, I know things are there's investigations going on, so we don't want to talk about anything specifically.
Yeah, there's nothing really that I think you asked me everything else, kind of person that, I mean, if you didn't know him, if you didn't know what he did and he was out there in the street or hanging out at a bar, you could easily talk to him. He blends in very well.
Gotcha. Everybody who goes to the bars, be careful who you go home with. That's basically that's the bottom line here. So, Bill, thanks again for showing up tonight and talking to us and getting the camera thing fixed. We get a chance to actually see you now. I appreciate all the information, and I know some of these questions are tough to answer because of ongoing investigation. So, we didn't want to impede on any of those things. But I'll send you. Sure.
Look, just, you know, if everyone listening can go out there and check out the National Institute of Law and Justice, you know, you can get a feel for what I'm doing now and my partner Mark Pucci are doing with the indigenous people and other cases. So
Okay. So can you say that title again? And maybe Raul is in the room. He's good at pulling up links and be able to post it for everybody.
yes, it's the National Institute of Law and Justice.
Okay, so you heard it there, folks. You can check out some of the work that Bill and his partner are doing and see if we can hopefully get some closure for some of the Native American cases. Like I said, I'd like to see some media attention on that. So, Bill, yeah, maybe we could do a follow-up if you get a positive case out of there, too. We'd love to have you and your partner want to come on, and we could
Sure.
talk about certain things. You know, of course, after the cases are over and everything
Oh, yeah.
in the legal stuff, because we don't want to put any cases in jeopardy. That's for sure. We know how much of the hard work it takes. But yeah, Bill, thank you again for joining us. I know you got the whole family and everybody over, and we appreciate your time. Have a great one.
All right. Thanks again.
Okay.
Have a good night.